Hey, it's Denise, and we are continuing with our Evernote challenge and going paperless. This week is the easy week. It's getting started, getting acclimated to using Evernote. Here's a handy tip. When you come into the office in the morning, you generally open up a browser. Some of you open Outlook, and you just leave those open all day long. Make Evernote one of those is open all day long applications. That way you don't have to think about it. You can toggle right in there, and you can add your information. Okay, so yesterday as you were getting started, you probably created a new notebook, maybe a couple. Maybe you figured out what notebook stacking is. If you haven't, here's a quick short tutorial on how it is. Basically, you can take a bunch of related notebooks and put them into a stack. It makes a little file tree you can hide, expand, but it doesn't really change anything. You create the notebook first, then you take two of them and kind of drag one onto the other. It creates a stack. Example. Let us say that you have a notebook called Client A, Sally Smith, Client dash Sally Smith. And you have Client hyphen Jane Doe, Client hyphen John Smith. 3 clients. So you would take Jane and drag it over to John, and then it'll create a thing that says notebook stack. You can rename that stack and just call the stack, client notebooks, client whatevers. But then you have 3 separate notebooks that you can expand and review or hide, so you don't have to look at all of them in your file tree. There are different varying thoughts on whether to use lots of notebooks or lots of tags. I would sway you toward the lots of tags, and here's why. With notebooks, you can only stack once. So when you have a notebook similar to your file tree, when you have a notebook, you can only stack one level. So, for example, client notebooks, client A, B, C, D. You can't have a sub notebook in client A. So you can't go 1, 2, 3. With tags, you can. So let's talk about tags. Tags they make life easier. They're just like labels in Gmail. For those of you who primarily use Outlook, you're not going to care. Only kidding. So you can tag things in multiple ways that can go in different notebooks. A great example, receipts. Now, over the course of a year, we all make some purchases online. And we store those receipts, hopefully, in Evernote. So you can tag them with the receipts 2015 tag, but that particular note can be stored either in your personal notes or it can be stored in your business notes. Doesn't really matter which notebook you put it in, as long as it's tagged 2015, you can actually go and pull up only your receipts from 2015 in business or only your personal ones if you're so inclined and really want to get scared. Couple things about tags though. A, they're super case sensitive. So if you capitalize, let's say, out of the office. Well, yeah, I'm original. If I capitalize the O of out of the office in both instances, out office, and then do a separate tag with all lowercase, it'll make 2 separate tags. It doesn't make nice with those 2. Kind of a drag. So one suggestion is to make sure that you are conscious of that, or to always do lowercase. A lot of people always recommend doing the all lowercase. I just personally don't like it. It goes against my inner grammar. Sorry. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about digital detoxification. Some of you, especially if you have been using Evernote for a long time, or if you participated in the IVA Wall of Shame, you know who you are. Let me give you a quick history for those of you who weren't at IVA. As part of our exercise when we kicked off our presentation, we basically gave every participant in the room a Post-it pad and a Sharpie. And we said, hey, write down every method you use for storing your notes and your thoughts and your ideas. One source per Post-it sheet. Then we hung them all up on the wall. We had 26 participants in the room, and we had over 50 different methods for ways that people store their notes. That's on average just 2. I know that there were a couple folks who went through half a pad of 50 sheets, different ways of storing information. So we have stuff everywhere. We have it in Google Docs, we have it in Word, we have it in email, we have it in email drafts, we have it in file folders. Why do we have so much stuff? Dropbox, SugarSync, the list gets huge. Start consciously keeping Evernote open and adding all of your notes in there. If you have a phone conversation with a client and you need to store those notes, store them in Evernote. Chances are the client isn't going to need to see those notes, like meeting minutes, but if they do, then have your alternate source so that you're taking and going from 10 sources of storing information to just a couple. Now, to begin the digital detox, here's the thing. It's not easy, especially if you have lots and lots of stuff. So here's how I did mine. When I started writing for the IVA presentation, I realized that my Evernote was, it was a little out of control. So I went through tag by tag. And the first thing I did was I looked at all my tags and I said, okay, well, if it's this, then it's a business life thing. If it's this, it's a personal life thing. And I kind of just nested all my tags and sub-nested and nested and re-nested and sub-nested. Once I went through all of that, then I went through the tags and I started looking at the contents of what was in each tag. Got rid of a lot of junk, stuff that I did not need. There were tons of read it later articles that I had read. They weren't blog fodder. They weren't things that I was ever going to need to read again. I got rid of them. And that's the first step of digital detox. You can actually sort your notes in chronological order and chronological reverse order by the last modified date. Do that first. Then start at your list at the bottom, or you can do it normal and do it from the top, and just start going through. Do I really need that? Double check your notes. Okay. Now, if you're someone who's using the business card scanner feature of Evernote, personally, it's not my favorite. I prefer CamCard, but it is nice to have everything all in one place. Make sure that you automatically, when you're scanning a business card, you automatically tag it. Either put it in the appropriate notebook or always tag it business cards, leads, whatever that is. Make sure it's all in one place. Even if the tag is an action item tag, you can use your underscores or your exclamation points, and those will put those at the top of your tag list if you're sorting alphabetically. So maybe you have an exclamation point action, and that's your cue to go into those contacts and review them, verify them, make sure that they're accurate, that kind of information. That's the first step in the digital detox. The second step is the harder one. Well, okay, it's not the harder, but it's more difficult. Is not to accumulate, just like consumerism. Do you really need that? Do you? Probably not. Maybe not. So you really need to come up with a criteria for keeping your information. The final step in digital detoxification, keeping it going forward. You have to keep that same momentum with everything you do. And it's the same thing with going paperless. When we went paperless here at the house, the household, the personal household, it took a long time. It took about a good 6 to 9 months to get off the bulk of the catalog mailing lists. So what I did was I just made a habit of every time a catalog came in the house that I literally plunked it on my desk, because I don't like stuff on my desk. I would have to address it. And I would stop what I was doing, fill out or send the email or send a fax to, or whatever it took to get those people to get me off their mailing list, as well as giving them an option to emailing me that information. At least with email, I can control that. I can control whether I receive those emails going down the road. Whereas with catalogs, you don't. You've got to get off the lists. So it's the same thing with a digital detox. You need to stop accumulating and you need to make sure that you continue not to accumulate. We'll have more tomorrow on that tomorrow, but meanwhile, keep up the good work.